Yes, the US has a law to the effect that you cannot run for the presidency more than 2 tenures. We haven't got that law. As a matter of fact, unless and until you are convicted by a court of law, you have every right, like any other citizens, to contest for any elective post that you want. So if we can sit here and say that a certain category of people should be banned from holding posts, I think we should go further than that. Because maybe we have more knowledge than the rest of Nigerians, we can as well sit here and pick a president for the country.
This situation does not help the fight against corruption, Mr. Chairman. If a suspect standing trial for the offense of corruption is sure of his or her freedom or liberty when arraigned before a court of law, the fear of committing corruption is diminished. Moreover, an accused person standing trial for corrupt offense with his liberty and freedom can adopt every available means to frustrate prosecution of the case. In this respect, Mr. Chairman, I recommend that the offense of corruption and financial crime should be made non-bailable in our courts. Also, Mr. Chairman, I recommend that high-level embezzlement of public funds and in financial institutions should attract death penalty, as obtained in countries like the People's Republic of China.
On February 21st, 2005, the government of President Olusegun Obasanjo inaugurated the National Political Reform Conference, an assembly of elder statesmen and women, traditional and civil society groups, and other stakeholders with the aim to resolve crucial issues relating to the nation's socioeconomic and political problems. For the next 5 months, almost 500 delegates converged in Abuja to dialogue, deliberate, and ultimately produce a homegrown blueprint for Nigeria that will steer the nation to social and economic prosperity. Justice Nikki Toby, a seasoned justice of the Supreme Court, presided as the chairman of the conference. Over the next few weeks, I'll be sharing some highlights from the National Political Reform Conference. In this episode, former Army Chief General Victor Malu, former Kano State Governor Abdullahi Umar Ganduje, Sir George Kogba, and Ignatius Adaji give their insights on the state of the nation. Let us know what you think in the comment section, and don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next video.
In our constitution. Anybody to sit here after 30 years of what has happened to come and enact a law and say that those who served in 66, 79 and so on should be banned. My learned colleague here, a senior advocate, even went to the extent of saying what obtains in the US. Yes, the US has a law to the effect that you cannot run for the presidency more than 2 tenures. We haven't got that law. As a matter of fact, unless and until you are convicted by a court of law, you have every right, like any other citizens, to contest for any elective post that you want. So if we can sit here and say that a certain category of people should be banned from holding posts, I think we should go further than that. Because maybe we have more knowledge than the rest of Nigerians, we can as well sit here and pick a president for the country. That is, by the way, it was not something I actually intended to talk about. Mr. Chairman, my comments are mainly on the reports of the national security. I think they did a wonderful job. The analysis, everything they said was correct, except when they went into the recommendations. I think we mistake national security with, not with police, with not law and order. We mistake national security with personal security and regime protection. The committee did a good job of going back many years back since the intervention of the military to analyze all the institutions that are created by this country to provide the national security based on our national interest. They talked about how the previous military governments ran down the armed forces for the fear that they might overthrow them, which I agree to a large extent. But when they got to 1999 to date, they didn't say anything. The fact is that the institutions that are created to protect our national interests and give us a sense of national security are not being treated fairly. I was a chief of army staff, I'm a Nigerian, so I know what I'm talking about. I cannot, in all honesty and with my conscience, sit here and tell you that Nigeria's territorial integrity can be protected with the armed forces as they are now, and that is unfortunate. If the fear was because of threat by the military to overthrow government, that is not an issue any longer. I know, and I can tell you with every honesty, that it's difficult for anybody to go and announce the takeover of a government. So what is the government afraid of making or strengthening the armed forces that can defend our territorial integrity? If we cannot do this, then we don't have national security. The government did a lot in respect of the police, which is just one of the security institutions. But like I said, the money went into somebody's pocket because it was not released the way it was done to provide national security. And that's why somebody left and is being investigated for 13.8 billion, which in effect is confirming that what we have in Nigeria is not national security, but individual security and protection of the regime. That should not be the case. Specific recommendations ought to have made on these subjects. They have not. That's why I wanted to bring it up. Mr. Chairman, I come from a state, unfortunately, where we have more ex-servicemen than any other state. When I wanted to talk about it last time, you cut me off.
No, not because of that. You were making a statement. That's why I stopped you. Not this one.
May I also say that my statement is based on thorough security analysis. That's the only job I've done in my life. And I think Nigerians should know. I don't live in Lagos, in my state. I live in Lagos. But I know what has happened because of the non-payment of this pension. I started the Army up to becoming the Chief of Army Staff. I was retired in 2001, April. Today is 26th of May, 2005. I have not started taking my pension. I know I'm not dying, so I will get it someday. But if somebody who served up to that level is not taking the pension, I can survive without the pension. But when I see those soldiers that are put in the trenches, some of them couldn't come out because they died in those trenches, going from Maiduguri to come and spend so many hours in Lagos, some dying on the queue, I think it's something that we should be concerned about. So the recommendation should be specific. My senior colleague, Lieutenant General Dogonyaro, said, we have not been paid up to 7 months. Well, I don't want to make myself an example because I've not been paid since April 2001 to date. But that is by the way. The issue of the payment of pensions is a very serious matter. It affects my state more than any other state. Certainly this is less than 7 minutes, but thank you all the same.
Thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Mr. Chairman, members of the High Table, my colleagues. Mr. Chairman, I would like to seize this opportunity to congratulate you and my colleagues for accepting to deliberate on the recommendations of the 19 committees.
Have you mentioned the name?
Mr. Chairman, my name is Dr. Abdullahi Umar Ganduje.
Thank you.
Presidential nominee from Kano State. Mr. Chairman, I have 4 interventions to make. Intervention number 1. My first intervention is on the report of the Anti-Corruption Reforms Committee. The committee made a serious omission on the issue of granting bail to perpetrators of corruption. Penal laws in Nigeria, like Penal Code, Criminal Code, EFCC, and the ICPC Acts allow offenses of corruption and financial crime to be bailable. This situation does not help the fight against corruption, Mr. Chairman. If a suspect standing trial for the offense of corruption is sure of his or her freedom or liberty when arraigned before a court of law, the fear of committing corruption is diminished. Moreover, an accused person standing trial for corrupt offense with his liberty and freedom can adopt every available means to frustrate prosecution of the case. In this respect, Mr. Chairman, I recommend that the offense of corruption and financial crime should be made non-bailable in our courts. The fear of remaining in prison custody during the period of trial in courts can serve as deterrent to people that intend to commit offense of corruption. Also, Mr. Chairman, I recommend that high-level embezzlement of public funds and in financial institutions should attract death penalty, as obtained in countries like the People's Republic of China. Intervention number 2, Mr. Chairman. My second intervention is again on the report of the Anti-Corruption Reforms Committee. The committee recommended that government should investigate all the local and foreign assets of all the executives at all levels who have served since 1966 and bring the corrupt ones to justice. To my understanding, Mr. Chairman, the investigation will involve all past heads of states, elected presidents, past military governors, military administrators, elected governors, local government chairmen, and local government sole administrators. Mr. Chairman, no one should condone corruption in whatever disguise, but to investigate the above array of executives from 1966 to date is a Herculean task. Some of these executives are dead. Some surrendered their lives to keep Nigeria one. Some are presently bankrupt, yet some are surviving with difficulty. For example, Mr. Chairman, if say you will investigate Chief Solomon La, who ruled Plateau State during the Second Republic, Alhaji Abubakar Rimi, who ruled Kano, Dr. Garba Nadama, who ruled Sokoto State, and many other state governors in the Second Republic from the South, I assure you, Mr. Chairman, instead of asking them to pay you something, probably the government has to pay them for inconveniences. Even those who seem to be rich, their riches are affected by multiplier effects that will have legal implications. In my opinion, such investigations may be cumbersome. Authentic records may not be available, and the whole exercise may be bogged down by witch hunting, seemingly creating more problems than it could solve. In this respect, Mr. Chairman, I object to the investigation of the past executives with effect from 1966 as recommended by the Committee on Anti-Corruption Reforms. There are sufficient laws to deal with those having foreign accounts. Intervention number 3. Mr. Chairman, another intervention is on the report of the Committee on Human Rights and Social Security. The report of this committee recommended to the conference for government for the Federation to implement the report of the Human Rights Violation Investigation Commission, popularly known as APUTA panel. I respectively object to the demand that the conference should recommend to the government to implement the APUTA panel. Mr. Chairman, the APUTA panel was purely an administrative panel established by government in order to address individual and national grievances of the past and to offer reconciliation where possible. At this juncture, we must admit that the Commission has succeeded to some extent in reconciling aggrieved individuals and the communities. However, the panel, not being a judicial commission of inquiry, its recommendations have no binding effect. Furthermore, there was a court pronouncement against the legality of the APUTA panel. It is also important to note that the report of the panel was submitted to the government of the Federation about 4 years ago, and the government has not found it imperative to implement the recommendations of the panel. In this respect, Mr. Chairman, and in my opinion, it is totally unacceptable to allow this important conference to be dragged into unnecessary controversy on the report of the Human Rights Violation Investigation Commission. Intervention number 4. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, our revered natural rulers, traditional rulers, distinguished delegates, Ignatius Ijegwadaji is my name. I am a Nasima delegate from Benue State. I will comment on the reports by political parties and electoral process, power sharing, models and structure of government, and revenue allocation and physical federalism. Political parties and electoral process. The recommendation is to the effect that no person whose return is the subject of petition and appeal shall be sworn in until the case is fully determined. My addition here is for the electoral tribunal to be given a time frame in which to dispose of the case before the winner is sworn in, and I suggest a time frame of 3 months. Power sharing committee. The recommendation is for constitutional provision to ensure that the president rotates among the 6 geopolitical zones. The principle should be applicable to states. I am an advocate of the principle of rotation, as I said in the first plenary debate. However, I disagree with the rotation among the 6 geopolitical zones. Rather, I would align myself with the recommendation of the Committee on Models and Structure of Government in section 16.2 on page 17, in which the president rotates alternately between the northern and the southern part of the country, and rotate among the zones in each part. The governor rotates among the senatorial districts in the state, and the local chairman rotates among the wards. Models and structure of government. The committee recommends that we handle the matter of states creation with caution. The fact that the committee gave a list of 56 demands for state creation would indicate that some states need to be created to assuage the problems which some minorities are put through in some existing states. In this wise, I support the request for the creation of a state in the Southeast to bring the number of states in the zone to equality with other zones, even though the Southeast has the lowest population among the zones according to the 1991 census. In like manner, I support the request for the creation of a past state from the present Benue State. Revenue allocation and physical federalism. On the recommendation by the committee, I wish to add that within the period of 30 years, when the derivation principle would have reached 50%, resources in other parts of the country, which are mostly potential today, would have seen exploration and exploitation. Then resources will not be domiciled in one zone. What we need to tame the fire of resource control is patience, understanding, and our common resolve to maintain the unity and integrity of this nation. Mr. Chairman, I have comments on the reports from the Committees on Economy, Social Infrastructure for National Development, and Foreign Policy and International Development as they relate to the views of the organized private sector. Since those views come under the private sector consideration, I have given them to the representative of the organized private sector to express. I plead with you, Mr. Chairman, to give him additional time for this purpose when he comes to speak. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
No. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is George Kogba, Benue State. Mr. Chairman, I want to congratulate the committees for the beautiful work done. Having done so, I want to express some feelings here. Nigerians are said to be very hardworking, and I think we are. Especially, you can see this in the attitude of Nigerians when they are at school and in their chosen careers. But when it comes to difficult situations, it appears that Nigerians are a little bit lazy. They don't want to think hard about solutions. Take, for instance, the case of tenure or office of the president and governors. I would have thought that rather than change between 5 years, 6 years, 4 years, 5, 6, we should now look at the 4-year, 2-term tenure. Find out the problem and try to solve it instead of changing. We will go to 6 years, 5 years, tomorrow somebody else will come and say, change again. This is exactly what we did when we had parliamentary system. We did not give it a chance. People just said change, and we changed to presidential. Now here, Nigerians are saying change from presidential to parliamentary. I think we should give ourselves time. I am therefore in support of the present situation where we have 4 years, and after that, if you are good, you do another 4 years. This situation goes similarly for immunity. I think that rather than ask that immunity be removed from the law or from the law books, we should find a way of ensuring that these people who have immunity do what they are supposed to do. After all, this thing happens in other countries. Why can't it happen in Nigeria? Why can't Nigerians obey? In any case, for example, before 2003, there were some governors. I know a particular governor who has said to have bought houses abroad. Photographs were taken. This man lost elections. He's going around the country. He has no immunity. What has happened to him? So really, it is not immunity. I think we have not thought of what to do. So again, I do not think that immunity is the solution. Removing it is the solution. We should try hard to vote people we think we obey the immunity law. Therefore, I oppose the view that immunity should be removed from our law books. Mr. Chairman, Benue State, my state that I represent here, was created amongst others in 1976. We are still not yet connected to the national grid. The Committee on Social Infrastructure did recommend that the capitals of the 3 states that are not on national grid should be immediately connected. I don't think it is just the capital, the whole state. I therefore want to correct that and say the whole state should be connected to the national grid like other states. Also, Benue State, Kogi State, sometimes Enugu State, Nasarawa states suffer serious vandalization of electricity equipment. I think government, the position has reached a stage where government should find a solution. I don't know what it is, but I think something should be done. Sometimes we are in darkness for 2 weeks. In any case, without this energy, I do not think that an industrialist would like to come to Benue State. Committee on Environment, the majority report, Mr. Chairman, talks